we talked about what we like what the testing grounds is doing. We've talked about what we would like to see the testing grounds continue to do and if it's a good idea. So now let's move into what the testing grounds isn't doing too well. Freeze just recently put out a video, basically a rant video about how there's no custom matches. You can't do a training mode to test more of the nuances. If there's any undocumented changes, which with every patch I'm pretty sure there are undocumented changes that Freeze tries to catch. But he can't really do it that well if something like this continues to happen. He has to rely on somebody in duels to say, hey, can you test this with me? And if they say yes, then great. If they say no, well, then you just requeue.
Actual sniping required.
Yeah, like you actually trying to snipe. So I guess this is what we have. So my question, and I'll ask Verb this to start with, why is it the case that they chose not to do this? Is this just an oversight? Is this on purpose? Like, why? What's the...
If I had to, I think they actually said, like, on, like, a tweet or something, but I think it was just, like, a technical thing. I don't know what the technical thing is. Like, real talk, I don't. But I assume maybe they just wanted to get the testing grounds out the door, so for the first week they didn't go with customs. I imagine now, after hearing all of the feedback that they've had, that they're going to definitely make sure it's in for the next one. But for this first one, it's a bit like with spectator mode and some of the problems it has with the global healing sound. Like, some things just slip through in the case of building it, but they just want to get it out the bloody door so people can actually give it a go. Because there's only so long you can keep it in the oven before it burns entirely. Right. So yeah, it's like, yeah, it's probably just one of those things.
Okay. So you attribute it to just like an oversight, basically.
Time, probably, resources, that kind of thing. I don't know specifics, so I'm just being generalistic.
Yeah. I can understand that, but to me that seems like something that should have been in the front of the priority list. If the purpose of this is actually to test changes, the best way to do that is not to jump into a match and play against random people. You get into a custom match with somebody, or you get into training to test like what you can do with combos and stuff. That seems to me to be more important.
Maybe they didn't think of it because, I mean, they're probably not going to monitor customs much because they don't actually value, have any valuable data for them in there, right? Mm-hmm. Like for us as a user, obviously, like that's how we want to test and give them feedback. But when it comes to them actually looking at the big picture, like customs are relevant. Maybe that's why.
Interesting.
It's like the biggest thing that I think... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say the total population data collection rather than specific shape, so that's why customs aren't being a thing.
Yeah. It's like the most vigorous thing I tested was... Okay, it's good to know at least that the matchmaking times lineup, I was able to stream snipe Daddylaw multiple times. That's the most vigorous thing I was able to test that entire bloody thing.
You and your fucking Shinobi.
That's the only time I play Shinobi is when I end up finding you in MM, just to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point that I actually didn't think of, is maybe that the customs or the training mode doesn't really give much data. But I think even with that being the case, which I think is a good point, I think you can still have it and still go and take data from the duels and in the Dom games, because the training mode and everything is going to be for content creators, is going to be for the competitive players who are trying to ascertain how well the character is, what these changes have actually done, and then once they figure that out, more than likely they're going to go into duels, so they're going to go into Dominion to see how they play. Yeah, so I think it's a good point, but I'm not sure it's good enough to not at least like have it in there. Don't take data from it, but still give it as an option. I mean, they know for sure that Freeze does a lot of work on their game, and that something like this is invaluable to him and to anybody else.
And the thing is, Verb already touched on it as well. Like, they do value quality feedback from players that actually can offer it. They do value that separately as well.
Yeah,
they not just the quantity of the feedback as a whole. So
yeah,
and that kind of quality feedback they obviously get from the vigorous testing of experienced players in customs. So I don't know. I think it was probably just an oversight. Yeah, to be honest, I think they literally just forgot it.
Is there a survey that people can fill out? Is that how they're doing the feedback, or are they?
I don't know. I know there was a survey for spectator tournaments that would be officially put up, but I don't know if there's one just yet for that. I believe what they said on streams and stuff, they were just generally looking at social media channels and Reddit, Discords, whatever, like keeping an eye out for things. And I imagine they'll also be speaking to specific people to get their opinions on stuff, because they have talked about like, oh, are they doing changes?
There is a survey. There's a survey. I just find it here.
There is.
There is. Can you
starting August and whatnot.
Can you put it in chat? Because I wouldn't mind. I did not know there was one.
Yeah.
And I would like to.
Right here.
There is a survey. Pog.
Reddit's opinion dance game. Yeah, that's.
I'm sending messages to you quickly. Oh, thought I got time to.
No, you shouldn't.
How does it feel?
I feel powerless. It's not fair.
Okay, yeah, so Testing Grounds Phase 1 Centurion, Gladiator, Warlord changes.
There's also a Reddit mega thread and a forums mega thread.
Okay. So they're doing
there's loads of ways to get feedback apparently.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a command for that tomorrow actually.
Yeah, so there's multiple mediums of providing feedback. Okay. Well that's nice then, because then when Ubisoft looks at hard data, they make very interesting assumptions. When they take like the data from PS4 and PC and put it together and say this is how the game is with these characters. Like, well, this is not necessarily how you should be compiling data. There should be a separation because of how different they are.
I mean, otherwise our Musha would be broken in the minion, according to the data.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like everybody, like Aura would be top tier.
If we speak about the data 3 times out loud, I'm fairly sure Filthy Spaniard busts through our walls and actually comes in and corrects us. Yeah, we got to be careful about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
We don't want to anger. Yeah. Okay, so then talked about what the testing grounds didn't do well, what it did do well. Is there anything else we wanted to add before we move on to the character changes specifically?
Nope.
No. Okay. All right. So
maybe one thing that also came to mind with testing grounds and how they implement. Before they actually got there, I wasn't exactly sure how they're gonna work. Like, okay, so it's gonna be like timed event. I'm gonna click on testing grounds. But then, like, is testing grounds the game modes, or is testing grounds just a gateway to all the other game modes that we have on live, and everything? But that then would probably bring up another problem, which is like participation in testing grounds might be way lower than your average players playing the live game, and if you then have a bunch of game modes, then you want to spread them even thinner across the board and get even less results than you would have liked. So now they stuck with duels and Dominion only, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Or aware. And the thing is also, there is, like, do you guys think that, first off, should there be single pick in at least those kind of game modes? And should only the characters up for changes be even playable? Because I think, if the characters only were playable, then, you're not going to see how they really match up in Dominion against, the actual live heroes we have in the current meta. But if you have a Send 4 stack, like, what data does that give you?
Right.
Like, hey, a Send 4 stack is winning against another Send 4 stack. Who would have thought?
That actually reminds me of something Daddylaw said on stream yesterday or the day before. He was just
an infinite towel strike someone until they're dead.
I heard that.
It was more to do with the whole playing thing. Like Daddylaw was going up against a couple people who were playing like proper like sweaty Black Priors and more
I was playing my main
heroes
as well because I just wanted to see.
Mains.
Yeah,
I
just wanted. Yeah. Sorry.
And this was like, of course, Daddylaw, not being a fan of like proper sweaty rolling that kind of thing, to his credit, wasn't too keen on it. And then someone in chat brought up a counterpoint to do with like, surely should they have some more of the tryhards to actually give these the sense and all that a bit more of trouble. And then you finally saying the thing about the single pick sort of brought it all together in my head. The single pick might refine the data down way more. And so instead of having like Gladiator, Centurion at constantly everywhere with occasional Warlord, have like one Centurion, one Gladiator, one Warlord max, kind of like how Siege does with single pick as well, like Rainbow Six, going back to another Ubisoft product. Like that could also not only drive down confusion, because every character in this game is horrendous when you stack them 3-4 times over, and there's a reason single pick is in tournaments. So I think data could be much better and frustration can be way lower if single pick was enabled for testing purposes. Not for the live game, but yeah, testing purposes.
Then again, people go on there to test their new character, and if Send gets picked first, and I wanted to try Send, then that's also going to cause frustration. Like I struggle to find a solution for everyone here. It's just like
I think that's one of the cases where you just have to deal with it. Like Siege has done the same thing, where it's like you've got to have your mouse right over the thing, and if you don't click it in time, tough luck. Yeah. You didn't get it quick enough.
I'd like to say something actually about the single pick idea, and because Crack was in the stream earlier today in the chat, and he brought up a very good point. And this isn't about the testing rounds, but this is just about single pick as a whole and how queues are handled. The only good way that would actually be honestly healthy to implement single pick would be separating the queues into multiple things. A casual queue, which is just, you know, there's no single pick, you jump in there, you're fine. Then you've got your solo queue, your geo queue, and then your squad queue. And in those specific queues, you've got your single pick, because obviously there's going to be coordination, they're going to know what's going on. Single pick, they're going to know what to pick, what not to pick. You know, I'm picking this, I'm going to be playing mid, okay, based off of that, I'll do my rotation for this hero. Whereas in public MM, just casual matchmaking, people are obviously going to leave. Like, say, if you're doing single pick and say you only main, what, Raider, Highlander, and Valkyrie, and all three of those heroes get picked, and you have no experience with any other heroes, is that going to make you want to stay in that specific game, or?
I didn't think about that. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
fair point.
I'd say really.
It's a good point. There's definitely a balance. I'm one who I would much rather have single pick, because it's very annoying to fight 3 Yorms. It's very annoying to fight 3 Wardens. Like Verb said, 3 or 4 of any one character it's annoying to fight. But at the same time, it does. Daddylaw's point is that, well, yes, single pick might be a better experience for everybody playing. If people don't have 4 characters that they can play, then obviously that stifles their desire to continue to want to play in that game mode. So I definitely think single pick is good for competitive for obvious reasons. For my selfish reasons, I want single pick in MM because it's MM. But yeah, I think separating the queues, like what Daddylaw said and what Crack said, is definitely a good way to do it. Have the single pick queues, have the casual queue where nobody cares, and then you will definitely be able to see a difference in the data that you could collect. The only thing I don't know is if that would cause an issue. Like, then what data do they look at? Do they look at the casual queue data? Do they look at the single pick data?
That's a good point.
Well, I just don't know what then their measuring stick would be. For me, it would be the single pick, because then that's what the competitive community does. That's largely what the game, I feel like, should be balanced around, is how, you know, how the competitive community and how competitive is played. That's the only issue that I see with the separation of queues. But if they were forthright and said, yeah, here's these queues, this is where we're going to take the data from, and then people can go into that queue or whatever.
Well, unfortunately, we already have game modes that are kind of a sleeper. So like, if we have even more different queues to offer people, I don't know how healthy that would actually be for the game as a whole. Unfortunately, like, we can't be that picky.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and Base Solaire actually just said in chat, imagine how long queue times will be if it's already 10 minutes long. Further segregation isn't good. And that's a good point, too. It's like the queue times are already inordinately long for the majority of cases.
Is that more of an MM issue, though? Like matchmaking?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like that's more so a matchmaking issue. And if and when we get the matchmaking back to what it was, when did it change? It was after
with this season.
2 patches ago, or this season patch? Yeah.
This season, yeah.
If we can get it back to what it was before, because queue times weren't that long at all. I was rarely getting 4 and 5 minute queues. I was getting 2 minute and 1 minute queues easy. Yeah, consistently.
And better players too. Like with the reputation was even. And
it was great. It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. But I feel that they probably shouldn't implement, you know, different types of queues like solo and geo queues until they've gotten the MM back to what it was, or to a better state where people are actually getting matched against people in their level rather than facing a stack of rep zeros playing peacekeep. making light spam works.
Yeah.
I mean, unless that queue would be something like vastly different, like let's say we bring Dominion rank back, and it is single queue only, and it is single pick only, and so on and so forth. Like that would almost feel like a little bit of a different game mode with different rewards, you know. That would probably have to go beyond just simple color swaps, but
yeah, for sure.
That would also add another avenue for more precise data, I guess, for them to gather. And I think it would have a chance to also be a popular game mode.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so then let's quickly move into the changes. Just a general overview. You guys have been able to play Testing Grounds a little bit yourselves, and have you been able to play have you played all the characters, or just mainly played against them?
I've played mainly Warlord throughout the entire thing, and I think I gained like 2 reps on Centurion as well. But I've mainly been doing Warlord. I haven't touched Gladiator though. I can't be fucked with Temp Guard. It's my kryptonite. I can't.
Yeah.
The most experience I had with Gladiator is having Uberdome in Daddy's stack. Stick hit the trident so far at my ass multiple times, I think my colon speaks Latin now. Like, New Glad is very good in the hands of someone competent now these days. Like, I mostly played Warlord with a bit of Centurion, like, because I do have a soft spot for Warlord, so I wanted to give him a thorough go to see if the quality of life feels nicer, being able to have the enhanced light, but it's not effective.
Yeah,
it feels nice, but it doesn't do that much.
Right.
But, yeah, that's my opinion on Warlord stuff.
Yeah, me myself, I went in there towards the end of my stream on Thursday real quick, and I was just playing my main Shaolin, like I always do, because I wanted to play Dominion anyways. I was like, oh, might as well play Dominion, but with changes to the heroes, so I can, you know, find out what it's like to fight them, because I don't actually play any of the heroes myself much, so I don't really care much for their changes, and I don't think I'm gonna start playing them just because of these changes, but I was still curious what it's gonna be like to face them. In hindsight, maybe I should, and which is why I also was maybe asking if maybe that should be mandatory, that you can only play those heroes in there. Because, like, what good am I there with my stack that doesn't actually test any heroes, and I'm just playing my main while being mean while people just try to get accustomed to potential changes, right? But then again, I mean, like, that's important data, you know, like, what good are these changes if you don't test them against the current meta and what they would actually compare? So yeah, that's my only experience, and it didn't feel that different, if I'm completely honest. But that might just be because, like, Send received the most changes, and he plays a little different now. And I had just the impression that people don't really play him according to his new kit yet, and they still fully charge as soon as they land a pin, and they don't do a charge after the light because they don't know it's even possible now. And he plays like a less dangerous Hitokiri now, essentially, and people are going to pick that up soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think
when I played them.
I think I think it is important for there to be people who don't necessarily play the characters but still go into the testing grounds to see how they are to play against. I mean, that's what I did yesterday. I played between duels and Dominion a couple hours worth, and I played as Zerk because that's who I usually play in 4s and 1s, just to see how these characters are to play against, like how they feel, like what the changes actually do. Because I don't play Warlord, I don't really play Centurion. The most I have of the 3 played is Gladiator. I think I had 2 reps on him when he first came out, and he just wasn't my cup of tea. I went back to Warden. But I think what Macgeiler said is like it's valuable for the data, and it is a tricky balance because you will have people who might go in as a 4-stack with their main characters just to bash on people who are trying to actually test the changes, and they maybe don't play Centurion, like they're like level 3 or something. Like that's an unfortunate side effect, but I think for the most part there are going to be people who are going in with the proper auspices over memeing, over just trying to bash on people. So it's a balance for sure, but I think it's good that they allow other people to play the different characters. Yeah. Okay, so we kind of touched on Warlord changes. The enhanced lights. He has does the hyper armor start on heavies sooner now?
300 milliseconds.
No.
The hyper armor starts at 300 milliseckons on the comboed heavy,
Okay.
not the neutral.
Finishes only.
Okay.
Yeah, his All Guard gives you a confirmed light now because it's unblockable. more tracking on his lights and decreased the the combo top light damage from 20 to 18 or 17, was it?
Okay.
Roughly.
Roughly 18, 17, one of the two.
Okay.
I think that's everything that was done. I'm unsure.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of that sounds like good quality of life changes. I do agree with Verb that the enhanced lights don't really make anything effective. I think if his chains were actually more threatening, then maybe when you see a light coming, maybe you want to try and parry it. But as of now, it's just like, okay, you hit me with a light, you can continue into your heavy. Sure, go for it. I'll block. Like there's really no reason for me to want to try and parry, to change my mindset and how I'm fighting a warlord from before to what these changes are now. The quality of life changes are all obviously good, but overall, I don't feel like the character's really changed all that much.
There's two changes I want to see them make. One's a revision, or actually both of them are revisions. I want them to bring back two things from the past. I want them to remake the old parry counter punish actually worth something, because right now the one where you parry into the punch, the shield punch he does, like, why would you do it? It guarantees nothing apart from a stab, and it's useless. Bring back the ability to do the heavy. Like, the reasoning for it back in the day was horrible. I think Rahman said something like, "Oh, we want to allow players more creativity when they do off the parry." It's like, what do you mean creativity? There's nothing you can do.
Right, yeah. Like, hello?
Yeah, I distinctly remember that. That was bullshit.
Yeah.
But the second thing is actually from the alphas. Back in the day, this is one of my favorite things, because I remember this is the first time I played it in the September 2000. Yes, old Warden style headbutt soft feint into GB. I think that could be an interesting play, because it's not like because headbutt stab does less damage than old shoulder bash into double lights.
Yeah.
It does like 1 or 2 less damage. So like either you can sit there and eat the headbutts or two trying to predict the dodge, or if you dodge incorrectly, you eat like a top heavy from a wall of what is it, like 30, 35 damage at most? It's not horrendous. And like, or maybe you get ledged a bit, but like Warlord's throw has been like gutted along with Shaman. So I think he needs to be given either old stuff back or something new. He needs some bite. Because right now he just kind of goes tick, 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 and they just try to harass you down. Like, where's the big punch?
He's not really a warlord. Like when I envision a warlord, like I don't envision anything of what the character is in his current iteration. Also, Verb, you're asking for viable offense. You can't do that. you can't. That's not allowed. But that's it was what the game needs. The game needs as much as people hate to play against a warden or as a berserker, those two characters are the best designed characters in the game, because they have unreactable offense, which means you have to make reads on both sides in order to get damage in. If you have good reads against the warden character, that guy's not touching you. What is he going to throw attacks? Okay, you parry them, or you just block them. Like, who cares? He goes into a shoulder bash mix-up. If you have your reading glasses on, what's the guy going to do? And the inverse is also true with the warden player. If they have good reads on you, they're going to get a lot of damage. And this is where the game should go. So like a headbutt feint into a guard break or something like that, to make it to where it may be a 500 MS move, which is within the reactable range, but the options out of that 500 MS move make it read-based instead of reaction-based, which is where the game needs to go, because the biggest problem with this game is there's like two characters that have viable offense, and it's because the majority of it is unreactable, or their unreactable offense they can get to very easily. So I mean, that sounds like a great change to me. I
mean, look at Black Prior.
Yeah,
he has the same kind of move, 500 MS bash out of neutral, but they actually gave him a kit that kind of complements that and lets him work around people who see it coming.
Yeah.
With a zone, or with an empty dodge into a guard break, or whatchamacallit, or just his unblockable out of his all guard.
Yeah.
Right. Like, even though his kit isn't not maybe super complex, like it actually synergizes well.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I have a lot of fun fighting Black Priors, but at least when you play one, you can actually do stuff and don't have to hope that, I don't know, your opponent is parry hungry.
Yeah.
Or he can react blights fast enough, or something like that. So that's still a lot of the cast still faces that exact problem. And if I may, real quick, about the Warlord changes as well. Like, as you said, those are all nice changes, but they essentially don't do anything, just because the character is so simple and doesn't actually have any like moveset per se,
Yeah.
He's not going to change. Like, he has no in-chain pressure, as you said. So the fact that his lights don't bounce off anymore, not going to do anything, because people are just going to block the follow-up anyways. Like, Warlord is one of those characters that I feel like they're not as like really sure what to do with him, because I feel like he would need like really fundamental changes to his entire kit. Because he's so bare bone right now. He has 2 hit chains, he has a bash. Like, there's not much there, unfortunately. So all the changes they're doing are nice, but really not what he needs. It's just like they're throwing a bone to Warlord players. Hey guys, we're trying to help you, but
right,
we don't actually know how.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so then let's move on to the Gladiator changes. For the most part, if I remember correctly, he got his static, or his reflex guard was improved. I believe it was standardized with the rest of the assassins.
Yeah.
1,100 milliseconds.
1,100 ms.
Yeah. And then he has faster lights all the way through. And the more in chain you are, the faster they are.
The toe stab as well. Was the toe stab changed where it's only faster when the opponent's out of stamina,
yes,
or is it faster than neutral? Because I don't know if I could tell that or not.
Toe stab was changed to where it used to be. Toe stab is itself normally didn't change, I believe. It's just when they're out of stamina, it's back to normal speed instead of being like, I'm gonna toe stab you.
Right. Yeah. Okay, right. Yeah, and it was normalized to 600 ms for both for while they have stamina and when they're out of stamina. The problem is 600 ms is still super slow.
It's still
especially with the voice line and
right, yeah, like that. Right, exactly. It needs to be sped up. It's great. I mean, hey, it's a great ganking tool. If you're in 4s and a Gladiator toe stabs, you get a side heavy as a Berserker player. Like, I'm always happy to gank with a Gladiator who knows that, because they just toe stab and then I'll side heavy and the Glad's like, whoa, I'm gonna do that again, and then it just keeps, and the guy just dies.
What if I stab him?
Yeah.
What would have been nice, I feel, is what if they made it so Skier could be soft feinted into a toe stab to catch dodges?
Yeah, or a guard break or something.
It's got weird tracking, right? Where if you need to dodge a specific timing, so it doesn't actually hit you, but like things like that would be great. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it only does 10 damage, but like it moved like that at least somehow. Yeah.
It's going to interrupt their flow and catch them off guard, you know?
Right.
Mess you up. But I feel like they're just sort of speeding things up in general across a lot of people and leaving it there. That's what it just feels like, because they haven't really made any big changes with Gladiator either. It's just faster lights, faster toe stab.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Great.
Sort of thing. And longer temp guard. And the temp guard is honestly the biggest change for him.
For sure.
You know, like that's going to enable him to function way better in 4s. Not that he's going to be a better 4s hero because of it.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the best or much better than he's going to be, but he's going to function better, of course, because the guard's going to be there longer and he'll be able to function better in ganks because of it.
Yeah.
He still will be able to gank better, but he's going to be able to block more. It's just they're not changes that are going to develop the hero, I feel, in terms of their kit.
Yeah.
It's more so just you can block more.
I mean, whether or not reflex guard is even needed is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. I'm actually...
yeah, it was. I feel like it was kind of a no-brainer to standardize reflex guard, just like making sense zone feintable. Like when people were saying, "Oh man, I hope they're gonna make sense zone feintable," or "I hope they're gonna make last reflex guard longer," that was a no-brainer. Like, there's no way they're not gonna do that, because I mean, they're not dumb, right? And given how the past changes on characters have went, we knew that was to be expected.
Yeah, I am actually in the camp that every character should have reflex guard. I think static guard is. I think it's too good, and I think
hell is becoming a reality.
I don't know. I just think reflex guard is more indicative to what actual fighting would be like. Like, you would have to move. You would always have to move your guard, and you're not going to be able to keep like whatever guard at the same place when you're actually fighting. Now, to be fair, I don't think For Honor is a great representation of how actual sword fights would go. I think the statistic is that the average sword fight lasted about 3 seconds. Which makes sense.
Shoulder fights would definitely go that way.
Yeah.
Shoulder fights for Honor got down. Sword fights maybe not so much.
But I don't know. I just think it makes everything on a level playing field, because a Berserker against a static guard character, the job is 10 times harder. Like, if you have a Berserker against a Lawbringer, that Zerk is going to lose that matchup more times than the Lawbringer is. The Lawbringer doesn't even have to parry. It just has to block, you know? And especially in 4s, like a Lawbringer sits on home point against the Berserker, blocks, waits until his team gets there, the Zerker's dead. You know, like, you're just not going to be able to really do much because of the static guard.
Like, either he lands a light parry and takes like
50
half
damage.
your health,
Yeah.
or he can just go into his shove and he'll trade. You do 13 damage, he does 15, and he has way more health than you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I feel like people are sometimes sleeping on Lawbringer as to how anti-fun he can be with his kid.
Yeah. No, I definitely
There's
agree.
a few heroes like that, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't really have viable offense, but what he has is incredible defense. And overtuned as heck parry punishes. 50 for a light is way too much. 30 for a heavy is way too much.
Agreed. I wonder, I mean, the thing is, I think people have been saying, like, we want to move away from the punish culture. And, you know, defense being so viable because you gain way more from a punish than you would by actually trying to, you know, attack the person normally. And then they release the Lawbringer changes, and they're like, oh yeah, his identity was that about, you know, a punisher. And I'm like, don't limit yourself in that sense. Like,
Yeah.
try to think outside the box and think what's good for the meta and not what's good for the identity of the hero, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Verb, I was cutting you off there, please.
Yeah, this is slightly going backwards in topic, but you mentioned about all characters to have reflex guard. I'm of a opposite mindset. I think everyone should have solid guard because your hands always somewhere. Like, your arms are always going to be somewhere. You don't just keep them down and then throw them up. Like, your hands are somewhere. But I've always been of the opinion that guard should get weaker the more you hit into it. Unless you've got some sort of property like a shield or something. So, to make it more relevant, like a Shaolin holding a bracer up. Oh, I just hit my mic with my arm, bloody hell. Like, a Shaolin holding his bracer up should not be able to defend more than a Lawbringer with a poleaxe, and a Lawbringer with a poleaxe should not be able to defend harder than a Warlord with a shield, or more importantly, a Black Prior with a bloody kite shield. Like, that thing should be hard to break through.
Yeah.
Like, you should be specialized, like, say, Jormungandr with a hammer. Be able to blow through guard incredibly easily and have different scaling, and that's been my opinion. But then again, I see yours as well, of everyone having reflex guard. Like, yeah, there's different ways of cutting that, but that's just my 2 cents on that.
For sure. That you could do an entire podcast on that topic, I feel.
Yeah, and I feel like all these changes are so fundamental to the actual game design, they would have to be in the sequel, because I don't think those changes can be implemented to this game at this point. But now that they have that knowledge, you know, maybe they can keep that in mind when designing maybe a new game. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm super that there's a For Honor 2 coming.
Like, real talk, I actually don't know anything about that, but I'm super curious if they do, because this game is so hinged on Jason Vandenberg's vision. Then it got turned around. Oh, hello.
He's been complaining. Apologies.
Yeah. But yeah, like Jason Vandenberg's original design, then it got changed. Then it got changed to the more aggressive style we're seeing in like the new era. Ever since like development, of the original launch finished. So a For Honor 2 with the new team. Like, if you've saw English hard, bloody hell, I'm the English one here. If you've seen Playing Hard documentary, you'll know what I mean by like the new team and Jason Vandenberg's era and all that. But suffice to say, I would be super curious as to what like it looks like for a For Honor 2. But that's like way off topic. I'm back to the training grounds. Overall, what were we on? I got
we were talking about gladiator changes. Yeah.
Glad changes. Yeah, overall, coming back to the main street. Overall, I think to say like gladiator changes, give them a nice tune-up. Like Light Boogie definitely dancing in the streets in terms of having the reflex guard back to normal. Maybe could do 1 or 2 extra things, but I wouldn't go too crazy with the Glad anymore unless someone thinks of a really good idea, because there's potential for him to become a monster in both 1s, 2s, and 4s if done correctly.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. In fighting Glad, I granted I didn't fight Glad mains. I fought some people who had like 10 reps or something like that, and he didn't really feel too much different to fight against. Like, his lights are faster, sure, but it doesn't change the fact that I can just block. He doesn't really have anything to open me up, really. I mean, his zone is there, but I mean, that's 600 MS. It's still easily dodgeable. So it's good quality of life, but it's the same with Warlord. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's done enough for the character in offense in general. His defense is better because now his reflex guard is normalized, which is great. The toe stab being sped up and out of stamina is great, even though it's still too slow. But overall, the character feels just about the same to play against. Go ahead, Verb.
I just remembered very quickly, Crack made a good point in one of his videos. The dash punches, his sucker punches and his parry punish, there's no point really in them. They don't give you anything. They should probably change them how they work. The sucker punches, the parry counter where he hits you in the chest, like make them do something useful, because right now there's no point in doing them apart from some very specific scenarios to counter some hyper armor based offense. That's it.
Yeah, and if a gladiator is doing a sucker punch, it's just dash attack bait, because it's still just too slow to reliably hit. Like I'm fine with that, giving him something guaranteed off of the sucker punch, but you got to make it fast enough to where it's not going to get consistently dodge attacked. Yeah. I'm all for offense being added into the game, man. I'm all for it. Okay, so the last thing that last character we haven't touched on is Centurion. This is where I'm kind of out of my element, because I haven't played Centurion even to rep 1. I think I'm like maybe rep 10 or level 10. I've heard from feedback from Haley, who is a well-known Centurion main. What has your guys' experience been playing against or playing as? Daddylaw, I'll start with you, because you said you did play some Centurion.
It feels like they had the wrong game mode in mind when adjusting Centurion entirely. I'm pretty sure Haley's thought the same thing. The Centurion adjustments feel more so like I would say a slight nerf in terms of fours. Realistically, it's cool that he can feint his punch now or his jab and catch somebody in a dodge, but then they can just roll as soon as they see orange dodge and convert it to your roll. That's going to negate the level 1, 2, and 3 jab.
Yep.
If you are landing a pin, you're not going to get your uppercut anymore, because that's gone. All that's going to do is confirm a heavy for somebody, literally 1 heavy, if they time it right and they see you getting the pin.
Yeah.
You need someone to guard break or heavy hit stun for the charged uppercut to land now. Yeah, you've got more damage on the Talon's strike, or Talon's Mercy, or whatever the fuck that
Eagle's Talon.
It's like 45 damage now, right?
Actually, it's called Eagle's Talon.
They do that. That's 45 damage now, but they click. To me, it looks like they had 1v1 in mind when changing Centurion.
Yeah.
And they were not thinking about fours in any way, shape, or form. And it was specifically just once.
Yeah, even if they had 1v1s in mind, they still didn't do a great job. You can back dodge all of his punch mix-ups, and if he's continuing to charge, you can roll away from it without any risk.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's good that they made this feintable. I think it's good that it's feintable, but it doesn't track dodges. It doesn't. It gives a light off of level 1 and 2, which I think is fine. But the problem is it's still largely reactable, or one option beats everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that the hero that was changed the most was affected in the most negative way.
Yeah. From
the heroes that were changed up, like I don't know if that was like purposeful to not change everybody a lot. Do slight adjustments to these two, but Centurion, who's obviously the one who's needed one of the biggest changes, arguably Aramusha as well, since they were put into the game. But I'm trying to understand what they had in mind whenever they were making those changes. Like they changed the. I'm not going a little bit off topic here, but they changed the rolls. They made rolling longer to get into it, and you're more vulnerable to get guard broken. Yet they continue to adjust heroes where everything they do can be negated by, like you said, a back dodge, which is then converted into your roll. Like there's no tracking there. How are you going to get someone if they just keep moving backwards? You can't. Like, right? What's the point in changing the hero if everything's taken away, like you said again, with one move?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Macgeiler, your thoughts on the Centurion changes?
Yeah, pretty much what Pierce said already. I'm surprised that those kind of things that we would deem pretty much no-brainers by now, can this mix-up be rolled from? Can it be dodged on one timing, or just can it be back-dodged altogether? Those still find their way into it, even in a testing phase, because I would think that's exactly what they try to, have there as the fundamentals for a character's offense. But also another thing that I want to touch on is it feels like they're kinda, especially with the old school cast, or like at least the earlier DLC heroes, they're not really sure what to do with those. Like they would have to go way out of their way to make them feel unique, like the Wulin or the Year 3 heroes, which I think they're doing good jobs on. But that is way too many resources, like to invest into, you know, a character that has already been sold, that already has been hyped, right?
Yeah.
But I know it's the same with like Lawbringer and Raider. Like Lawbringer is okay, he's still just there, but he has high punishes, okay. And Raider, okay, we just give him everything. Like here, soft feint, there, hyper armor, and you know he's still very basic at his core, kind of. And then we have, like, as a comparison, we have the Wulin and the Year 3 heroes who have way more personality, not only like lore-wise and look-wise, but also in their kit. And then they have, I think, a good set of feats to complement that as well, which I think is kind of overlooked in a lot of ways. Like, most of those heroes all have like the vanilla loadout that is completely unique to them and synergizes and complements their kits super nicely. And then we have like the old cast who all have kind of the same old feats that are pretty boring, but always taken because they're the meta. And they're not the meta because other feats are good. They're the meta because they're the ones that haven't been nerfed yet, right? And then we have now body count is getting nerfed and hopefully he'll unblock soon. But we still have feats like Slippery and stuff like that. And like they should just be replaced at this point. Centurion's March. Yeah. And
what does that even do?
Maybe,
I don't think I've ever seen
infinite stamina for a set amount of time.
Yeah. And like instead of maybe nerfing feats that are always picked, or outright banned from tournaments, like let's say Morale Booster, why not try to make other feats more exciting and more viable to like, nerf the stronger feats by proxy, just because there's also other good alternatives to maybe take. And yeah, that's just I don't really know how to fix that either, because we have such a vast cast at this point. You can't make every hero feel unique there.
Yeah.
At least not gameplay-wise. Like, yeah, look and feel maybe a little bit, but they kind of put themselves into a corner, I think, at this point, because the community still calls every hero change a rework. It's not them that title them that. It's literally the community calling it that. And then they see, wait, this is the Glad rework? Like, no, those are just Glad changes.
Right.
You know, that over the past 2 days is ridiculous.
Yeah, how's the rework, guys?
The rework is like...
Yeah. They didn't promise you to, like, reinvent Gladiator from the ground up, right? They just made changes. And yes, the core character, just like a lot of others, is very basic, right? And they're now comparing them to recent heroes, new heroes that had a lot more exciting designs fundamentally, right? So that's kind of an issue that I feel we're facing right now with Fallen and its cast.
Yeah, I would love to see more of a move towards like the Shaolin kit, for example. Yes, like the Shaolin kit, I mean, the character is, in terms of competitive viability, is not as good as the other characters, but the kit and what you can do is super interesting and incredibly fun to play. There's a lot of synergies. There's a lot of options out of key. The problem can be getting into key. But even then, like the options that the character has is great. It looks cool. It makes you feel like you're actually a monk, you know, like you're actually this character, which I feel like is lacking in the majority of the cast. So moving that direction with how they designed kits is great. Like I think the how Black Prior is designed as a character, which you had brought up earlier, is great. His kit synergizes well. There's counterplay to his kit, but within that is also counterplay to the counterplay. Like with the undodgeable heavy, for example, after you get hit with the light, if they're going to dodge, you can hit it. You read that, press heavy. You know.
What I want to touch on here as well. Like I always compare Black Prior to Conqueror and how they're like different takes on how do we design like a real tanky, like bulwark kind of character.
Yeah. Right,
and I think BP is great because he has that unique bulwark counter that makes him counter moves no one else can counter. And I don't just mean bashes, like also like I don't know, Shaman's Bite after someone block stuns you. He can counter that by flowing into his bulwark. It's such a fun and satisfying mechanic, and yeah, and so unique, and it makes him feel like a defense specialist, right? And it's not without risk either. He can always be guard of it at any time. And then you have Conqueror, who is also a defensive bulwark, but I think for the wrong reasons, because he has way too many safe option selects. His offense is also very boring and one-sided and safe. Yeah. And that's just not fun to fight.
Right.
You know? So yeah, like it seems like they got it, like when they design new characters, they really, got it down by now. Maybe Yorm is a little questionable.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's just way too difficult to apply that to characters that are already established.
Yeah, I think the design of Yorm is super cool. Like manipulation of the stamina pool and working off that is super great. I think it's a cool gimmick. However, it's just implemented very poorly.
After 22 reputations of Yorm, it's like why? I don't even know. Like I understand. Like it's what else you were saying earlier. They make those stamina changes and then they bring in a stamina bully.
Yeah.
But a stamina bully that literally has 2 confirmed pieces of damage, which is either his parry punishes, a grab, knocking someone to the ground, or a parry in bash in the light. Like he literally has nothing from neutral at all. 0 zilch.
Yeah.
Enhanced lights.
Enhanced lights, dude. Yeah. Well, see, I think enhanced lights works with Yorm if that punch was not 600 ms or was guaranteed something. Because if I remember correctly, chain punch is 500 ms, neutral is 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's similar. Like Black Prior's shield bash out of chain is 500 ms. And that is, a lot of people don't dodge that out of chain. So I think the speed is okay, but the problem is you don't get anything off of the punch, right? The only time it's threatening is when you're very low on stamina and you know the punch will get you out of stamina or you'll get very close. Then it's threatening. At that point, you block the light. There's literally no reason to dodge. Who cares? Oh, I got hit in the gut with a punch. Cool. We're back. Neutral's reset. There's no damage. There's no advantage.
You may heal a little with his speed.
Right,
that one PDS that makes him heal of it. I mean, there's that at least.
Yeah, but it's
gonna actually gain
10.
health.
It's 10 health, right?
Yeah.
Per punch. I mean, it's not bad.
Maybe even less. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Verb, we have kind of got off topic, and I know you are needing to leave relatively soon. Talk to me about your experience with the scent changes, playing against him, if you've played as him.
I played 1 game with him. And then I played a little bit in training mode. I mainly wanted to focus on the aspect of playing against him because I'm not too much of a Centurion player.
Yeah.
But playing against him, my muscle memory beat the shit out of me until I remembered that I should not be dodging on orange. And it's like, and also the whole quick throw being removed on light. It's like there's a flow chart of how to deal with Centurion, at least in live, in retail. So it's like, all right, if he lights, expect a heavy or charge heavy. And that's it. If he tries to GBU, just don't worry about it. But now seeing orange, it's like light attack, orange, excuse me? Like, orange? My muscle memory freaks out. So you've got to worry about that instead, but that'll take time. Then you've got to take time with, all right, punch can be feinted. You can't just dodge on orange now. And now you got to remember, you do technically have an opportunity to get out of the pin now. It's not a cutscene. It's just like a quick time event now, essentially. But you can fail that quick time event quite easily if they feint the punch properly and do mind games. So Centurion, I feel, will be okay, I guess. Not fantastic. He definitely needs a lot more. Like, kick needs to be sped up. There needs to be a couple of things. Haley's done way more detailed than I am, but kick immediately comes to mind. That needs to be sped way faster.
Yeah.
Like a 600 millisecond bash in 2019.
Isn't it 7, actually? I thought it was
7.
Yeah, like, that's ridiculously slow. Like, holy.
Slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like, fighting him, when I die to a Centurion now, I feel the same way as when I died, like, one-on-one to a Jormungandr. It's all on me being an idiot.
Yeah.
And not, like, properly reading, reacting, and playing properly. If I die to, like, Hitakiri, for example, in a 1v1, I do get a little bit more frustrated. Even though if I try and play it well, I can still get utterly destroyed unless I go full shields up and just stare.
Right,
and I'm not massively scared of Centurion. Same thing when I'm not massively scared against Jormungandr. But at the same time, I do die to them frequently because verb and playing well in the same sentence does not go well together. So, yeah, that's my opinion on Centurion. It's fine. It needs a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
He gets more.
Yeah, the thing that boggles my mind the most is that they left the kick completely untouched. That's something that when I heard Centurion changes, I was like, oh, maybe we'll get a kick. Maybe we'll get a feintable punch. So they did the feintable punch, but they didn't do the kick, which I don't know. I feel like if you sped it up, you could potentially catch rolls with it. I don't know, but it seems like it's part of the kit that should be there, and that should be sped up. Okay, so I wanted to talk, and I can just briefly talk about this, the impact these changes have on the competitive and casual. We've pretty much already covered this. Competitively, this doesn't really change the viability of them. Even in any mode, 1, 2s, or 4s, they're all pretty much going to be the same. Gladiator is probably the most affected because he can actually block attacks now much more reliably. But even then, Warlord, Centurion, all of that in the competitive community is not really going to go anywhere, I don't think. For the casual, for MM, I think there will be some impact with the scent changes more than Warlord, maybe even Gladiator. I can see the people who can't block reliably against like light spam or something. Maybe Gladiator does a little bit better at the beginning, but the feintable punch with Centurion, I think, might have some kind of impact in MM at the beginning. But past that, I don't really see it being too impactful with its current iteration. Obviously, and like Daddylaw said close to the beginning of this, these are tentative changes. These aren't necessarily what we're going to get. We're just being tested. But as they are now, they definitely need some improvement. Is there anything else about the competitive or casual impact you guys wanted to add?
Just that it's not really going to affect it at all.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah.
There's no effect whatsoever.
Yeah. Good that we got testing.
In fact, Send is probably going to be worse because his punishes are worse now.
Yeah, it's true. His punishes are worse. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, and his offense can still just as easily shut down.
Yeah.
So.
Not only can you still block, now you can just back dodge and then roll.
Yeah.
And his punishes are not that great now.
No,
yeah.
Because what is it? Off of he used to get a.
He used to get a heavy on it. Yeah.
Right, charged and blockable, charged uppercut, eagle or talon striker. Fuck, I keep
Eagle's talon.
That thing, But now the max he can get off of parry punish with the knee strike lands is if he has haymaker, which is the knee strike for 10 damage and then the heavy for 30. I believe it's 40 damage then.
25.
That's the most he can get. 25.
The thing is, he used to get the heavy on or the knee into heavy.
I mean, if there's a wall nearby, if he wall splats them.
Yeah, then
and then thing. So he gets.
Yeah, I think that's 30 damage then. Yeah.
Yeah.
The charge
and the knee damage.
And then the knee.
I don't know. Is it 35 or 30? I always forget.
That's 30 damage. I think the charged neutral heavy.
Okay. So 40.
But the charged unblockable isn't even confirmed on the wall splat now. That's parryable now.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That as well.
I didn't know that. Nice.
Like apparently whether or not you get down blockable on a wall splat is super finicky now because the leniency on the distance from whoever gets knocked into the wall to the wall is now a lot stricter. Like it used to be always a thing, and if you're way too close to the wall, then you may not get it. But now there's much more leeway on how close you have to be to that wall in order to not eat the full punish.
Yeah.
The unblockable is really useless now.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you saying that?
No, I think I said everything. And even if you get down blockable, that's it. You don't get the Eagle's Talon after anymore. So.
There's no punch.
It's kind of useless now. It's entirely useless. You land that charged and blockable, what happens? You don't get a punch out of it. You literally have nothing. There's no point in going for that.
I feel like some damage boosting may be appropriate for Centurion with his current changes because he does hit like a wet noodle. It's just that he had a lot of confirmed damage before and Haymaker.
Yeah.
But now most of the moves that utilize Haymaker don't guarantee any damage after that anymore. I think, like the knee, for example, unless there's a wall, or even the punches of the guard break. I don't think they even do damage anymore. But yeah, he just really doesn't hit that hard anymore, fortunately.
Yeah. And his out of stamina is still not as strong. The kick is still very slow. The punches, I guess, can be, but still, if the identity of the character is supposed to be a stamina bully. So, which to me means when you get them out of stamina, you should have some really devastating mix-ups, and he just doesn't have it. It's kind of like the same with Yorm. When you're out of stamina, he has some things, because if you block a light and he goes into the punch and you don't dodge it, then you're taking the damage when you get knocked down. But for the most part, it's very easy to not go out of stamina if you're playing defensively, which is what this game really pushes and how to play, and which is very antithetical to the identity of Centurion. There's just no out of stamina punishes or out of stamina pressure. He only gets a light now off of a heavy, if I remember correctly. I think I said somebody or saw somebody say that they can get a top heavy off of a heavy parry. I have not seen that, so I have no confirmation if that's true or not.
If only we had a way to
test it,
in dedicated ways.
What are you saying, Bird?
Twitch.tv/freeze. Just youtube.com/freeze. Check out the video.
Wow, dude. Yo, is this self-promotion on my channel, dude? What's going on? Or other promotion? Yeah. So overall, changes aren't really that effective. We're happy that Testing Ground is here. The implementation of it is not very good, though. We don't have the ability to test stuff, but it's a good direction moving forward as a first iteration. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add on any of the topics that we've covered before we end?
Nope.
No, not really.
I think we touched on everything.
Okay. Yeah, I think we touched on everything as well. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you to Daddylaw, Macgeiler, and Verbalosity again for being here for the 4th episode of Honor Bound. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. I would
a lot of fun.
Love to have you guys on for future episodes as we continue to, talk about the changes that are happening in the competitive community and in the game in general, because I think we're starting to move in a great direction. Spectator mode, testing grounds, even if there's some bugs and things aren't quite right now, there's plenty of time to get them to where they need to be. So